All right, Davey, we're live. Thanks for joining me today. I know we only have about 20 minutes, but I'll give the floor to you. Tell me about your startup.
Sure. So my name's Davey. I go by he, him, his pronouns. I'm the founder of a public benefit corporation that's making a kind of internet underworld. It's called Plexus, and what we're trying to do is make a space where most people feel comfortable contributing online, which sounds sort of simple and might be the kind of thing that you would assume exists, but it doesn't. If you look at Twitter, if you look at Reddit, if you look at every social network that exists, you'll see that the vast majority of content is just produced by like fewer than 1% of people. And that's not just an issue on today's internet, but it will continue to be a bigger issue as the internet becomes a bigger and bigger part of our lives. Um, and so what we're trying to do is make space where not just exceptional writers or companies with advertising budgets, but literally everyone who has something on their mind has a space where they can share that thing and have it get to the people who care about it. Not necessarily to their followers, not necessarily to the people in the community that they happen to stumble into, but the people who have the same weird things on their mind and want to connect about it. So that's our goal.
That's cool. Cool. So I guess just to clarify, would you say you're building then a social media platform, or is it something different than that?
I think I sort of believe that like words come to mean have the things that people use them to mean, and if that's true, then like what we're building is not a social media platform at all. Every example of a social media platform I've seen has had this kind of participation inequality I described, where very few people contribute and the vast majority of people are just consuming and flicking their thumb up the screen. And also every social media platform I've ever seen that at least like gets really big has been funded by advertising. And we're going to try something a lot different. And so Plexus is technically a social network, but it should not look like any social network you've seen.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your Substack or your website, and it says that you're a social network without a feed. So is there any way for the audience or for someone that's trying to visualize what it's like to use Plexus, how you can describe how it works?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best way is just to try to go to plexus.earth. It's open right now. We're about to put up a wait list, but you should still get by early if you get there. Um, but the best way to describe it that we've come across is it's actually sort of simple. You open it and you don't see a feed, you don't see other people's content to start. You actually just find a blank page, which is sort of jarring sometimes and surprising. But the prompt, what it asks you to do is just to reflect on something that feels interesting or off to you today and now, something that's on your mind. And if you start by typing a couple of sentences about the thing that you're thinking about, immediately it will surface for you the most related thoughts that everyone else in the community has typed before. And so it sort of feels like you're tapping into a shared brain, where immediately the weird particular thing that you're dealing with, the relationship or interest that you have on your mind today, you might immediately find community around it because we'll show you the people who have that too. You don't have to like introduce yourself to like 17 different people at a cocktail party hoping, you don't have to like wander around a tech meetup. We'll just route you directly to the people who you should be talking to.
And how does it work then if you just have that one thought for that day, right? You don't follow people, and then like you said, there's no feed, and so it just depends on what you post on that day, and then it connects you with those people, and then it kind of starts at scratch at zero.
Yeah, so it's very much inverted the normal way, right? Whereas like in a normal social network like Twitter or Facebook, when you enter for the first time as a new user, you have to sort of select who your friends are, and then slowly you build up a rapport and figure out what it's like to post. Here, you just start with what you're thinking, what your thoughts are, and as a result of what you're thinking, we'll find friends for you. And so, yeah, every day you're not just limited to writing one thing. Every day you can write one thing, and then you find other people and see what's related, and then you can respond to what they're saying and go down crazy rabbit holes where you keep alternating between writing things yourself and seeing the most related things other people have shared before. It's the first time we've ever seen people be thinking in a social space online.
Yeah, and it's like it's as if you have to have independent thoughts, right? You're not influenced by your feed or your followers. It takes introspection. Is that fair?
It takes some introspection. I think like when people, it's a little bit uncomfortable to get used to, but then when you get used to it, even like non-writers, people who just like don't consider themselves super intellectual, it's like the most rewarding place to type what you're thinking that like I've ever seen online. Because most times when you type what you're thinking, like on Twitter, if you're going to tweet something, you're tweeting to probably like maybe your family, maybe like the kids you went to high school with, maybe your colleagues, all at the same time. I never have a thought I want to share with my basketball teammates from growing up, my comedy friends from
Mm,
college, and my tech
it's a good
friends from
point.
work, and yet that's what tweeting is. And so here, what you do is, yeah, you just type about literally the things on your mind, and we reward you by showing you exactly the people who should have seen it, and the people who you might want to talk to about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, it's a separate following or audience for each tweet, dependent on the subject matter. And sorry, it's
Right.
not a tweet, but um,
For each post.
yeah,
I
for
think
each
that's an
post.
interesting, just on that too, like a lot of people think that the solution to, so like if the current internet feels too much like a stage and like performance art, then like the solution is just to have lots of smaller different communities. But the issue with that is one, like on Reddit, for example, like, or on Discord, finding the right server, finding the right community, it's a lot of work. Like it's not a given that you're going to be able to find a
Mm,
community that you need now. And then even if you do, you're probably still posting to thousands of people, most of whom don't care. Maybe a couple of whom can get the answer. But there's no wonder why most people don't post online. Like there's such coarse methods of trying to share what you're thinking. And so what you were saying, Connor, is exactly it. Like it's like we're trying to give you a new community literally every second, depending on the thing that you're thinking about. Community should not be some like static thing with binary
mm,
membership where there are people who are in or people who are out. It should be something that assembles like dynamically around the thing that around where you are today. You know?
hmm No, I think it's super interesting that you've kind of clarified it for me, right? Because I kind of clicked through and I tried to type up a post before we started here, but that kind of can go to my next question is how do you educate, I guess, the consumer or just people about how to use this, right? Is that a challenge you foresee?
Yeah, I think it will be, but honestly, we're not super focused on it right now. There are a lot of people who enter Plexus and are really confused and just like shut their computer. And we're early enough that that's actually okay. Because the people who keep pushing are the people who are most interested and then end up discovering gold, And like
Hmm
we've
hmm
seen people, there's like a really steep drop off between, there are people who get really confused. But when they get to a moment where they've like typed something, pulled in someone else's thought, and then typed something else, some people end up going for like 45 minutes or more on their first try without any instructions. And so, yeah, we definitely are going to work backwards after we like get this flow right a little bit better and figure out, okay, why, like, what is the frame of mind of the people who are spending more than an hour on this platform? But for now, there's no onboarding flow at all. So fair warning.
Okay. No, I think that's fair. It's interesting. And then really maybe because I know we're kind of short of time here, could we pivot to why Plexus, why the social media space? Is there any reason in particular that you've decided to attack this problem from a different angle?
Um, like personally, yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of existential for like there's both like personal and I think it's important for the world. I think for me, I've just been in a lot of situations and seen a lot of friends who are dealing with very particular struggles or situations, and situations they felt alone with, like relationships or mental health things or work things or academic interests or like any just weird combinations of things that for whatever reason you feel like you're alone. I think it's something everyone's felt before. Like you're
Hmm
just in a unique situation and you don't know people who've gone through it before. Um, and I've seen those friends like after way too long, every once in a while, get connected with the person who knows exactly what they're going through. When I've seen that, it changes the course of their struggle, their month or their year. And like so personally, I've just been in so many situations where the right connection can lead to something so significant for people's lives that it felt to me, given that we have access and we were able to build some crazy connection making technology, like there's just no other place we could apply it than connecting people who need to be connected. That's personal. I think like a lot of the stuff about participation and equality online, I think it's going to become really important for the world soon. I think like there are a lot of existential threats that are coming to people, like chaos that's going to happen in society when AGI becomes like much more of a force in the next couple of years. And like as climate change grows worse, as infectious diseases spread, like there are going to be all sorts of challenges that require lots of people to coordinate and think together at the same time. Um, and
hmm
the first requisite for that, it seems like the internet is important for that, but only an internet where most people are participating is important for that. Because if you have an internet where very few people are posting, which is the one that we have right now, you just have our primary mechanism for coordinating with each other is like really not a democratic space, not a space where most people have a voice or a say. And I'm just worried about the kinds of decisions people will make when most people aren't speaking.
And do you think your platform inherently encourages more people to participate? Because I think about it on the surface, is it just that some people just want to consume and they say, "Hey, I don't want to post." But do you think your platform changes that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's that conclusion that you're drawing, Connor, is what I think most people conclude when they see the stats online. I mean, a lot of people just conclude, hey, in big human communities, it's just what happens that most people are consumers. That's what most people are, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that conclusion it's sort of seductive and it's familiar, but it's really just propaganda that's funneled down to us from an advertising-based incentive model on the internet. Because from an advertiser's perspective, like I want the users on whatever platform I'm advertising on to be scrolling a lot. I want them to pass
Hmm.
as many ads of mine as possible. And so when Facebook has that incentive in their mind, they want you to be scrolling a lot. And so of course they design, and like the social networks that we have that are powered by ads are designed to make people scroll, are designed in situations where the only way to share is to share with literally everyone you know all at once. Like, no wonder
Hmm.
most of us share on interfaces that look like that, you know?
Hmm.
And so in Plexus, when we guarantee that the thing you share only goes to people who have shared context, we're just trying to start to make it like more human and more rewarding to say the things that are on your mind, which in real life you'd probably say to a friend, you know, like everyone in the world like wants to say the things that they're thinking about to the right people. But just online spaces have not yet accommodated that, you know? So I think considering people to be just consumptive by nature is this trick that big like big incentive
Hmm.
systems have played on us and that we've come to accept, but that probably isn't right.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think it's an interesting experiment you're undertaking. And I think you mentioned earlier, so and on the topic of advertising, you said that you will not go down an advertising model. So what is your plan to monetize? I mean, assume you'd have to monetize it at some point, right, in order to continue to grow and foster this community that you want to build.
Well, yeah, I guess there are a couple of things. But we set up Plexus as a public benefit corporation, so
Mm.
even though we're venture backed, which means that we have resources to do extraordinary things, we're always going to prioritize impact over profit. And so yeah, we're figuring out and experimenting right now with different possible ways that Plexus can sustain itself long term. But we're thinking a lot about the model that like religions use, where you sort of ask for donations or subscriptions based on what people are able to provide. Um, and that's the thing that's most compelling to us right now, because we think we can give people a kind of service that they've never had another social network give them, which is literally finding the people for you that you need to talk to now, like finding
Hmm.
you your custom community now. And if we do that right and we're able to execute on that in a big way, then we think this, we'll be able to provide people enough value that they'll want to pay for it, and that we'll be able to prevent advertising from the platform forever. I mean, we're never going to prioritize people's attention over their intention. Like this kind of blank page thing where you sit and think about what you're thinking about. Like, um, we want to give that experience where people have space to think about what it is they want to like everyone. And so that's a long-winded way to say we'll probably just ask people directly to support us.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, right? If you do provide enough value, I think people are willing to pay or vote with their dollars in that way. I mean, you think about uh, a lot of creators now; they have Patreon and et cetera, and some
Right.
creators have huge followings where people are paying for content that they could get for free on YouTube, et cetera. But so I think that's super interesting. Yeah. Well, hey, I know we're short on time, but maybe we can close with two more questions. Um,
Sure.
what is the long-term vision for Plexus? Like if you look 5, 10 years down the road, where do you want to be?
Yeah. Well, it might be too hard to. I can start in like 2 or 3 years. I think in like
Okay.
a couple of
Uh,
years, we want Plexus to be a religion replacement for individuals. Um, we're lots of individuals in big cities, especially like young, out of college people who, like maybe in previous generations, used to have intense community structure that gave them like purpose and meaning in their lives, like religions or political parties you put all of yourself into, or small towns. But living in big cities after school, I know so many friends like that just feel like they don't have structure anymore in their lives and aren't willing to try to join religions for good reason, because like our generation is like the most individual it's ever been. You know, like we choose what we believe and who we see and like what we do for work and where we live. And that's all wonderful. And I think it leads to an increased appreciation for people who are like marginalized and just for all of our internal worlds. I think it's like the most enlightened state of like human consciousness we've ever had. Um, but that means also that like a lot of us are not willing to change what we believe in order to fit in. And that includes fit in religious groups. So our goal for Plexus is we can make the first space where people feel like they can belong, not in spite of the weird things that they're thinking about, but because of those things. If literally whatever they're thinking about, we can assemble dynamically community around it for you now, um, it should hopefully end up providing people the same kind of community and belonging and ultimately ritual too that religion used to, without asking you to conform in order to belong.
Okay. Hey, yeah, I think it's a lofty goal, but I like it. I like what you're trying to do. You're going big. And then maybe we could just close here with how people can find Plexus, kind of join the movement or play around with this new type of social network you're creating.
Yeah. So the easiest way right now is to read what we're doing on Substack, plexus.substack.com, plexus. Um, there we write every few months about like where we are and where we're headed. If you want to try Plexus, which again is you totally should, but just know that there's no onboarding flow. You can go to plexus.earth, plexus.earth, like the planet. Um, and there you can start walking through this like weird world that we're making with Plexus. And then I also post sort of occasionally on Twitter, even there. I realize the hypocrisy. At Davey underscore Morse, and Plexus Earth is also the Plexus handle.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll put all those links in the description. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy, but as this thing grows, maybe come back on. We can do more of an in-depth episode as you grow and get more traction in the space.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you making the space for this, Connor. And good luck with the podcast too.
Yeah, thanks, Davey.